Our next stop on the way to the Silver Seal is this statue of the Forefathers modifier, and we've reached the notorious Prestige 10. It's known to be one of, if not the sharpest difficulty spike in the entire game. The more I play, the more I feel like the lumber mill is just the best starting blueprint that you can get. Alright, so there is our farm building. That means we can play around the fluff peak this game. I'd like to experiment with getting trade set up a little earlier. I think we'll probably get a bit more mileage out of flame amulets this game. Start your engines is basically the dream. We have the pipes to do 2 rain engines right now, to instantly get us 2 more villages. I think the best time to open our first dangerous glade will be in the clearance. This is one of the best rewards from an abandoned cache I've ever seen. I think I'd rather just leave this be for now and let the threat trigger. Aha, I think this one's an easy pick. Pickled goods is the ideal complex food for our species, and it uses the berries from our farm as an input. We are absolutely out of food now, which is very unfortunate for our newcomers. I think we're in a nice position to open up another dangerous glade at the start of year 2. Welcome back to our first game on Prestige 10. It's the start of year 2, and it's time for a new cornerstone. Cooking steam is pretty mediocre, especially without any drizzle geysers, and Rebellious Spirit just blows it out of the water. It doesn't look that good right now because we're at low impatience, but when our first trader arrives in about a minute, we'll just start chain calling more traders. We have heaps of amber, and we have to spend it all anyway, otherwise the Glade event will take it away from us. And in doing so we can boost our patience up to 8 or 10, get plus 4 or 5 to global resolve. I think it's a very powerful cornerstone and pretty easy to play around. We have orders as well. So both of these orders require things that we don't currently have, skewers and pottery, so we'll have to rely on buying them either way. Pottery and wine is pretty expensive as well because we have to give up the wine and the pottery, whereas Lizard Relatives just requires us to build the houses, which we could even just delete after if we needed to. The rewards for Lizard Relatives is also pretty good for our majority lizards population. Plus 3 resolve and plus 5 lizards is just fantastic. Whereas the pottery and wine rewards are okay, but nothing to write home about. Well, this seems like a fairly easy pick. 2 health upgraded to level 2 will happen fairly naturally, and there are decent rewards, particularly the boots. Whereas sacrificing is really expensive for plus 1 resin that we won't use, and decreased fuel consumption in a game where we have oodles of fuel. So let's just go with outposts. So we're definitely on the lookout for skewers and fabric from our traders. The earlier we complete this order, the more reputation we'll get from our lizards. So nothing there changed my mind on opening this dangerous glade next. We're going to have some idle villagers standing around after the cache and the beaver house are done. And opening the glade also informs our decision on what to buy from the traders. So our dangerous glade has a lot of berries, as well as a stormwater geyser, a scales pond, and a cache. Goods in this one are nowhere near as useful as our first one. We also have the notorious river kelpie. If we don't resolve it, it will kill 2 villagers, and we can banish it to spawn a rainwater geyser, or we can mount it using some food to get rep and amber, but the side effect of mounting it causes 2 random villagers to stop working and mindlessly walk towards the kelpie every 90 seconds. So by the time the event is complete, half our town won't be working. I think it is worth going for the rep, but probably later in the year when our villagers aren't so busy. And to be honest, there's not that much else for us in this glade. We definitely don't need the berries. I could see a use for the stormwater geyser, but it's a lot of time to set up and a long way away. I think the scales pond is the most useful. We can use it to make copper bars in the stamping mill, but that's sort of where the production chain ends. We get some rain engines out of it, but that's about it. Anyway, there's still a bit of work to be done on the town. We'll need a lot of bricks for our lizard houses, and we're about to get a bunch of clay from the abandoned cache, so we can set up the stamping mill and begin brick production. We'll also be able to use those bricks to set up the second hearth for our order. And we can also preemptively set our cellar up, so that when clearance hits and we start harvesting our berries, we'll be immediately able to make pickle goods. We are relying on the traders to bring containers though for that one. It would also be good to get a rain engine set up in the cellar, but we don't really have an easy way to get pipes. So there's a lot riding on the trader bringing us the right goods. Our first trader has arrived. Zorg has some pretty good stuff, including a +2 to pickle goods perk. It's very expensive, but I think it's early enough in the game that it will pay itself off. So in order to afford everything, let's claim our trade routes. So Zorg brings all the containers we need to make pickle goods for a while. We can also use it to make the wine that we need to solve the Forsaken Crypt event. And fabric is the only building material we don't have a good blueprint for, so buying a bunch now saves a lot of resources and time on building our lizard houses. We didn't bring skewers for our order, or pipes for our rain engines, but we will have some amber left over to trade with our next trader. So let's grab this, and of course our +2 to pickle goods perk. So I think following that trade we now prioritize building the cellar before our stamping mill, because we now have the means to make the wine that we need to solve the Forsaken Crypt. We just have to be mindful that the wine isn't in the warehouse when the threat triggers. Right after Zorg left, I immediately called the next trader, so Bliss is here. To be honest, we're not desperate for any of this stuff, but we are desperate to get rid of our amber, so it doesn't just get deleted by the Glade event. At least by getting some boots, it should be a little easier to push Lizard's Resolve this clearance. We've produced our first batch of wine, which means work can start on the Forsaken Crypt. There's still nearly 3 minutes until the consequence triggers, so we should have no problems ferrying the wine from the warehouse in that time. We're going to keep calling traders to increase our impatience for Rebellious Spirit, so it's really important that we find some good trade routes to run. This season we've got a plank route and an oil route that are both very profitable. It's time for our first big berry harvest. With 17 farm fields and our 85% crit chance from the fluff beak, there's about 200 berries in this field. Another trader has arrived. It feels like an absolute rip-off, but I don't think we're going to build a third hearth this game, so we can use our excess wildfire essence to buy a few more water skins for our pickle goods. We're going to have time to call one more trader before the end of the season, and obviously we don't have much left to trade, but by the time the next one arrives, we'll be able to collect the amber from these trade routes. We don't have long before we have to start work on this kelpie to prevent it killing 2 of our villagers, but to save some time ferrying some goods, we can set up a temporary warehouse right next to it, which will reduce the impact a little bit. We're up to 6 impatience now, with the arrival of our next trader.
Hello.
Zorg has absolutely nothing of interest here, so we'll save the amber from our roots for the first trader of next year. With the warehouse set up, the foxes nearby, and the storm approaching, this is the best time to start the work on this river kelpie. Bamboo Flats farms are just incredible. We now have a massive surplus of berries, which we can use to start processing some dye in the tincture, which we can further process in the lumber mill for some trade goods. We have our second group of newcomers. I think lizards are definitely our preferred species, and bricks are a lot more useful than food now. And we just earned a blueprint from Resolve. The brickyard does give us a container recipe, but we've already used up all of our clay and bricks. And I think it's the point in the game where we're looking for a service building. Of these, I think the guild house is the best one, because we have the means of making luxury and education, and we will potentially get a few points out of the guild's welfare passive effect. The guild house is a very expensive building, costing 60 planks, so our beavers will be hard at work in the lumber mill to get that up. We finally have the building materials to make these lizard houses, but we're still waiting on a trader to bring us the skewers. Completing this order will be the tipping point that gets the lizards into the blue for the rest of the game. So we got almost nothing done during that storm, thanks to the Kelpie charming all of our villagers. But they'll soon be free because the event's nearly done. And we also have a new cornerstone for the start of the year. These two cornerstones do absolutely nothing for us, so it's an easy reroll. I would take trade logs if the trader arrival speed would make another trader arrive before the end of the year, but I don't think it will. And cannibalism is obviously not very useful now, so another reroll. It's actually a pretty good time to pick from the ashes, because we're about to complete our first 2 Dangerous Glade events, but 2 Wildfire Essence is not very good for a cornerstone. I think we just take friendly relations here and try to keep pushing our resolve up via trade routes. We also have some orders. Dealing 60 Amber of Goods is a lot, and the rewards are fairly mediocre. We can use the tools maybe to open a cache, but that's about it. But I think it will be really hard to complete this geyser pump order. We just don't have the pipes to be upgrading geyser pumps, and we don't even have the inputs for fabric either. So we'll go with the order that we can complete. We have no tablets and no intent to open 4 glades. So I think it's an easy decision here to make the packs of trade goods with our die, and the rewards are quite nice as well. The first thing we need to do this season is call our trader and get the impatience to get us 2 extra resolve points. And I think setting up to open this Dangerous Glade around when our villagers are no longer charmed is probably a good idea. We're mostly looking for more reputation from events, and also a way to bring in some skewers. There are a few things of note in our Dangerous Glade. One is this abandoned cache, which brings skewers for us to work on our lizard order. And the other is the Dangerous Glade event, the Stone-Tooth Termite Burrow. The reward does not give us rep, it gives us a termite nest that gives us 5 insects per minute, which is not very useful to us right now. So I think we should ideally ignore this event, and hopefully complete the game before this threat triggers. Now that we've seen what's in our glade, we can deal with our newly arrived trader. This has a lot of stuff that could be useful, but I think the most important stuff is the pipes to make a couple of rain engines, some boots to keep our lizards and foxes happy, 3 tools, which when comboed with our order that gives us 12 tools, will allow us to open a medium abandoned cache. We do have some amber left over. I think it's possible that later on this year our impatience will have dropped enough to call another trader for 8 impatience, so having a little bit of amber left over to trade with them is okay. So now we can pipe our cellar, and finally stabilize our pickle goods production. And also the lumber mill. Lastly, we have a blueprint. The clothier is excellent. We have the leather nodes to make coats and water skins, and even the dye recipe to make the coats. The tool shop is okay for the boots, but we don't really have the bars to make the tools. I think the manufacturer and press are low quality compared to those two. I think the clothier might be the best blueprint we could have gotten. We're up to half a point of reputation per minute, which is good, but probably not good enough to threaten winning the game by the end of the year, especially with how awkward these orders are. I'm not really sure if it's going to be possible to close out this year, but to give ourselves the best chance, let's keep fishing for ways to accelerate by opening this Dangerous Glade. This Dangerous Glade was not very useful. We got a cache, which has no goods that we need, and the Rain Spirit Totem, which once again does not give us any rep. With our leftover stone after opening the cache, we can send off this trade route to the Smoldering City, which will help towards our 60 value of goods sold order. At the start of clearance, we have another 2 trade routes to run to help towards our order. As it stands, I can't see a way to end this game by the end of the year. I think even if we magically complete all of our orders and keep all of our villagers in the blue throughout the storm, we'll still end up being just short. So that does mean that we have some of these Dangerous Glade events that we should probably resolve. The Rain Spirit Totem is easy, we can just burn it down with our oil. And I think we can ignore the Termite Burrow. We're not going to have many bricks, fabric or planks left by the time this triggers. We have a couple of blueprints to pick from Resolve. Don't think we can really make use of any of these. Market is just in general a low quality service building, and we can't really make the ale or the treatment. The Scribe does improve our lumber mill with the scrolls and packs of trade goods, but we won't be able to put a rain engine in it. I'm not sure it's even an improvement. I think we'll just take it though to see the next one. The tools recipe in the smithy is useful if we can pick up some bars from a trader, because we have a lot of caches that we could send. So we'll definitely take that one. The problem though is that we can't drop our impatience low enough this season to actually be able to call the trader. And the ability to call the trader is gatekeeping our booming economy order to get 60 value of goods sold. In any case, all we can do is push Resolve as high as we can go, so we're even using the Fluff Peaks +2 to global Resolve. Newcomers are here. The extra lizards will definitely speed up our reputation gain. We have enough room in the hostility budget to not go over to level 2. The third fox also lets us put them all together in a building for some extra resolve. By some miracle, the lumber mill workers managed to produce 30 packs of trade goods in this season, which completes our trading goods order, and drops our impatience low enough to call Old Farlough just in time before the storm. By calling Farlough, not only do we increase our impatience for our rebellious spirit cornerstone, we also give ourselves this opportunity to complete the booming economy order, which would get us 3 extra villages, which is enough to upgrade our second hearth to level 2 and complete this order. Unfortunately, I don't think Farlough can bring skewers, so this order sits undone. But if he brings tools, then there's some world this game could still be won this year. We have to be a little bit careful. Impatience is about to shoot through the roof, and Blightrot will overwhelm the hearth this year if we don't set the Blightpost. It's not an overwhelming amount of Blightrot, so we should be okay just scrambling up a Blightpost now. Farlough is here. Let's see if he can speed up our game. I don't think there's much here that really accelerates us. The Jew could be useful to make tools, but I don't think it's realistic that we could produce enough tools by the end of the year to actually send a cache. At least we can complete our order. We can pick up some pipes for some resolve with rain engines, a bit more pottery for some pickle goods, and some oil we can burn. It's useful, but nothing that helps us win this year, I think. Now we can claim this booming trade order, giving us the villagers to upgrade the second hearth, and some tools to open a cache. We also have 2 blueprints. No skewers, which is the main thing we're really looking for to complete that order. The clan hall would be the best pick, so that we could use training gear to boost lizard resolve during the storm. However, we've just seen our last trader, so we're not going to have any way to get training gear. So I think we just pick the tavern, purely for the +3 resolve passive effect. I think we're just going to have to ignore the skewer order, and went through resolve, our hearth order, and our cache. And I don't think any of these blueprints help us do that. Using the pipes that we bought from Farlough, we can connect pipes to the stamping mill and the clothier to continue pushing resolve during the storm with our excess clearance water. The lizard resolve threshold jumped to 43, which is just too hard to maintain during the storm. So we're all in on our beavers and foxes, bringing in the reputation that we need. The first batch of purging fire is on its way, so we shouldn't have any problem with Blightrot. The limiting factor at the moment is just the planks that we need to upgrade our second hearth and build our tavern. With our hearth upgraded, our outpost order is complete. I would delay this to prevent lowering our impatience, but I think the boots are going to be important to the lizard resolve push in Drizzle. We have a new cornerstone and orders to choose, but there's no need to drag out the game by thinking about them. We're getting 0.9 rep per minute, so we should cruise to the win before the end of the drizzle. A quick review of our key perks. Rebellious Spirit is always phenomenal. You want to keep invasions high anyway, to lower hostility, so it's basically free resolve. And Flame Amulets did the job I expected it to, which allowed us to do all of our woodcutting early and scale back during our Year 3 resolve push. We produced 25 yields of pickle goods, so this +2 production perk only netted us 50 pickle goods at the cost of 32 amber, so we definitely should have just used our amber to buy complex food. Maybe that was a difference maker to win the game in Year 3. And I think we definitely overcooked the fluff beak. I expected a greater need for berries, between pickle goods, wine and dye, but we ended up with 150 berry surplus after just 2 harvests, so we definitely could have spent less early resources on the fertilizer. Anyway, still a very fun game, and it's nice to get the Prestige 10 hurdle out of the way. We're fast approaching my favourite Prestige difficulty, P12, so we have that to look forward to. As always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.